What is up, guys? Fortexfiend here, and welcome back again to another video on SD Gundam G Generation Eternal. And in this video, what I'm going to be doing is going over the featured SSRs in the new banner. Now, I know I stated in the last video that I don't cover those for the banner review. Reason being is that when you are pulling for these units on the new banners, you never chase the SSRs, you are chasing the URs. But you guys find value in giving my opinion about the SSRs that are featured, and we got a whole slew of SSRs, 6 total. So we're going to be taking a look at them, and I'm going to be giving you guys my overall thoughts and opinions. And because there's 6 and 2 of each role, we're going to be doing a little bit of comparison too. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. So for those of you that are wondering where to find this information, simply go to the banner, go to featured, and if you scroll down, there it is. And as you can see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total SSRs that are brand new for this banner. Again, these SSRs are going to be added later in future banners, so these are not limited, unlike the limited UR unit and the limited UR supporter warship. There's also a new SR, not talking about that because truth be told, none of you guys, I'm pretty sure none of you guys are going to be using that SR unless you absolutely like that unit. But let's go ahead and start things off with the first SSR, which is going to be the Rezin's, Schnyder's Geara Doga. I hope I said that correctly. And this is one of 3 SSRs that also has a pilot, and we are going to talk about the pilots too. So right off the bat, this is an attacking type unit. If we take a look at its abilities or passives, it has increased attack, critical damage boost, and it also has the vigor conditions where it gets an additional attack and defense boost by 7% when your vigor is super high or higher. So pretty much a standard, like all-rounder offensive type unit, which is good. In my opinion, if you happen to pull this unit, it's a solid SSR. It also does have some form of damage mitigation in shield defend, which again, damage mitigation is really good in this game because it allows your units that are not necessarily defender types to potentially survive an oncoming attack, especially for harder stages where surviving is very, very important. Okay, in terms of its stats, its attack goes all the way up to a pretty good amount of 11,000, which is pretty solid for an SSR unit. Terrain capability is pretty standard. You got, full capability in space and land with half underwater. The movement on this one is 4, which I guess is all right. Would have preferred 5. And 90,000 HP if you SP'd this unit and have it at full limit break is actually not too bad. So all in all, very solid unit. In terms of its actual skills, let's start from its best skill, which is going to be the Sturmfaust. It does have a range of 3, so unfortunately this thing's weakness is going to be its range. So if it gets hit by something like 4 or longer, unfortunately it's just going to be a sitting duck. But it does have a respectable power at 5400, and the closer you are to the enemy, the higher the weapon power will increase, up to a 15% increase. That's pretty good. So it's incentivizing you to use this unit as like an up and close quarters type of a unit, kind of similar to like Epion, for example, is an SSR unit in the development tree that is kind of like that melee in your face type of a unit. So it has that. And then its beam sword is at a 1 range, but it does have that critical damage by 20%, which is always nice. And then afterwards, it does also have a beam machine gun, giving it a little bit of a range option. Unfortunately, again, it's only at 3. So when you're playing this unit, you're going to want to use it up close more so than trying to play the range game with it. Okay, so all in all, I think this unit is solid. If we take a look at its tags, the tag that sticks out to me is going to be lightning fast and specialized unit. More so lightning fast because there is a UR supporter warship for lightning fast, and the lightning fast group does have some pretty good units in it. It has Kosoval's Gundam. It does have, Barbados. It has the brand new Force Impulse, which is pretty cool. It also has the high new Gundam, so there are some URs on there, and it is part of this. So if you're building like a lightning fast team, you have the warship, and let's say you don't have a full team of URs and you're looking for some SSRs, this could be one that you could definitely consider using. So all in all, pretty solid unit. I don't think it's the best SSR attacker unit, but it's definitely a solid one in my opinion. Okay, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the second one, which is the supporter unit. This one also comes with a pilot. Again, I will get to the pilots. So this one is pretty interesting. If we take a look at its abilities, it has max energy increase, max HP, and also increased accuracy. The accuracy is, I would say, is pretty good to have on this unit because especially when you are a supporter unit and your goal is to be, inflicting additional damage and also inflicting debuffs, that's something that you want to make sure always applies. So as long as you hit your opponent, you are inflicting that debuff, which is very, very important. I like the increased max HP because more survivability, and max energy. Max energy is all right. Again, I haven't really come across any fights where energy is really a problem, even in Eternal Road Expert. But if you guys can think of a fight where energy can be kind of an issue, where this passive is pretty important, you let me know. But I think they kind of just gave that as like a throwaway. That's just how I feel like, in my opinion. This also has mitigation, which is good. Shield defend, love it. And it has pretty standard terrain capability. Its attack is, I would say for a supporter unit, is a little bit on the lower end. However, I do like how it has 93k HP. That's pretty good. And then if we take a look at its actual skills, we're going to look at its best skill first, which has a range of 4. So I'm already liking that. 4 or 5 is generally what you want from these like long range type units, especially for support. So this one is has damage taken from beam weapons up to 30% in terms of debuffs. So a lot of the higher end UR attackers, for example, most of their attacks, especially their EX attacks, are either beam or special. So this debuff still has one of the most values. Physical is also good too. If you have a supporter unit that has a physical increased damage up debuff. However, a lot of us have been using like the top attackers, such as like Sazabi, for example, is one. Another one is, the new Hainu Gundam, Strike Freedom. A majority are like special or beam weapons. So this is a pretty solid option for that. And then afterwards, its range 3 ability has defense down 20%. I find that interesting that it's 20%. I've seen SSRs with higher, especially for a level 5 weapon, but it has a 3 range defense down 20%. So it's good that it has a generic defense down and then a specialized like debuff that increases the specific weapon damage. But the 20% is interesting. Then afterwards, Beam Tomahawk. This is like a throwaway skill. Decent power for a support unit, but you're rarely ever going to be using this. You're not using this unit in your face. You want to keep it at range and make sure you're inflicting those debuffs and making sure you're using it as a good support. Now, in terms of its tags, the tag that sticks out for me is One-Shot Killer. Obviously, One-Shot Killer is just arguably the best tag in the game right now if you have that Eternal Lacus. It has Specialized Unit if you manage to pull that one chip from when they release GPO2A and also Char ZAKU 2. But One-Shot Killer is the tag that stands out for me. I love it. It definitely gives this unit a bit more value for an SSR unit. So all in all, very good supporter unit. And then finally, the third unit that also comes with a pilot is going to be a Defender. Funny thing, this is the only SSR unit of the 6 that's not from Seed Destiny. So Bandai Namco, we know you love Seed. We'd like to see other units represented from other series. But anyways, for a Defender unit, it has pretty good HP. 122k is quite a lot if you manage to max limit break and if you decide to SP convert this unit. That's a lot of HP. Terrain is pretty standard. It's pretty much the same as the other units. Excuse me. And then it does have good mobility as well. In terms of its abilities or passives, max HP increase, great. Increased mobility, fantastic. And when its HP is 50% or below, it increases its own defense by 10%. So it makes it a little bit harder to kill when its HP is at 50% or below. Truth be told, though, you want to try to keep this thing's HP as high as possible. But if you happen to reach those conditions, it's the game is at least giving you a shot of like potentially still be able to survive, especially for harder stages. It has mitigation with shield defend. Defender units are always beneficial to have that. And then in terms of its skills, this is where I think it gets really interesting. So we're going to take a look at its last skill first. I understand it has the lowest power. It's at range 4. But this has attack down 25%, which is cool. And I like how it's at a range 4. And then if we take a look at its second ability, which is the Beam Assault Rifle at 4200 power, we are introduced to a brand new set of debuffs. So this one decreases beam weapon power by 25%. So with this banner, they are now introducing units that can specifically debuff an enemy's weapon type. So what this is going to be very useful for is, let's say you're using this in like a Seed Destiny or Seed series type of an Eternal Road, and you're taking a look ahead of time of what type of attacks the enemy units are going to be using. If any of them have beam, this is definitely a Defender unit worth considering using, because you could debuff that particular weapon type and then also inflict attack down. So it's essentially lowering the amount of damage that you receive from that particular unit's weapon type, which I think that's really cool that they added this. So this is very, very cool that they added these new type of debuffs. And then Beam Tomahawk, pretty standard. Nothing to note here. It's just a standard attack. Again, this to me is a throwaway ability. So you're not really going to be using this. And then finally, it's tags. Lightning Fast. Again, we just talked about Lightning Fast momentarily ago. Very, very good. Other than that, Commander type, there's nothing really for that just yet. So Lightning Fast is definitely going to be the tag that makes this unit stick out. And it's a good thing that there are some really good Lightning Fast URs you can use alongside with this if you don't have a full UR team and if you manage to have the Lightning Fast chip. So all in all, very good unit as well for being an SSR unit. All right, the next units we're going to take a look at are the SSRs that do not come with pilots, but they are also really solid units. And we're going to start off with the attacker unit. So we just saw like a melee style unit, and we have another one here. So this one is going to be the ZAKU Phantom. Its abilities are increased attack, increased accuracy, and it has an attack conditional where if its HP is below is 50% or below, it gets a 15% increase. So when this thing is getting closer to being destroyed, it's actually going to be hitting harder. So it's a very Dark Knight-esque type of a passive there, where Dark Knights, the lower their HP, the more damage they're able to do. It has a shield mechanism, which is great. Its attack is pretty respectable at 11,400. That's pretty good. And if we take a look at its skills here, all of them are at range 3. But again, this is going to be the weakness. It's similar to the last unit where you can't really play the long range with this. So if you're fighting off against a lot of long range DPS, and we've seen lately that long range DPS is definitely a lot more impactful than like in your face DPS, it's going to struggle a bit. But at 4560 power, this is what we get out of this. The closer you are, the greater the weapon power increase. This one is only up to 10%. So not nearly as good as the last unit with a similar skill like this. Its other skill, which is the Beam Assault Rifle, is just a pretty standard skill right there. And then it does have a Beam Axe at 5400 power. And this one, you have a higher weapon power, up to 15% when your HP is lower. So put him with a pilot that has something that benefits from that, and this could potentially be pretty useful. I think between this and the other attacker unit that we just looked at that has a pilot with it, I think that one is going to be a bit more consistent compared to this one, because this one is going to require a riskier style of play, whereas the other one is a bit more of like a standard melee type. You want to get in close. It also has the increased critical damage, which I like that better. But all in all, this one is all right. I think the other one is definitely better. If we take a look at the tags, though, it does have Unstoppable, which Unstoppable is another very good tag. We take a look at the tags here and what's available to Unstoppable. I see the Phoenix, I see Build Strike, I see Exia, I see Lesigne, I see ZAKU 2. So some pretty solid URs there. I still think Lightning Fast is still a little bit better now, especially with High-Nu Gundam having that tag. But this one does have Unstoppable at least, which, again, there's a good Unstoppable warship. If you happen to have it, you can build an Unstoppable team with this. But between the two new attacker units for SSRs, I think the other one is better over this one. Okay, let's take a look at the new SSR supporter that doesn't have a pilot. I have to say, I like this design better already compared to the other one if we're talking aesthetics. But the attack is already higher than the other one. I like that. Higher mobility compared to the other supporter unit that comes with a pilot. And let's take a look at its abilities. Increased mobility, increased evasion, and when HP is at 70% or above, it increases its own attack by 15%. So it's overall dealing more damage for being a supporter type unit. It doesn't have that increased accuracy, which, supporter units I think can benefit from, because you want to be able to hit the enemy target and inflict those debuffs that are useful. But it does have increased mobility and evasion, and it does have overall better offensive capability. So it hits a little bit harder compared to the other supporter unit. Has the shield mechanism, has the same type of terrain, and in terms of its actual skills, its highest range is at 4. So let's take a look at that first. So this one inflicts defense down 30%. The other one was 20%. So that's pretty interesting. So they gave 20% to that one and 30% to this one. Now let's see the second debuff this unit has. Inflicts damage taken from... Oh, okay. So this one is 20% beam damage taken. The other one is 30, and then they swap defenses. Honestly, it's a toss-up, but I'm gonna have to say... Well, you know what? Let's take a look at the tags. Unstoppable. I'm gonna have to say this one is a little bit better. I prefer the higher defense down over the 20% over the higher specific weapon type debuff. Just because overall it's a generalized debuff, it's easier to strategize around it. So in my opinion, I think this one is going to be a little bit better than the other supporter unit, which is the Gunner ZAKU Warrior that comes with a pilot. But both are good, but I do think that the Gunner ZAKU Warrior is a little bit better in my opinion. And finally, we're going to take a look at the Defender unit that is new as an SSR. This one doesn't come with a pilot again. So this one has really high defense. However, its HP is not as high as the other one. The other one capping out at 122k. This one's only at 102. It does have 5 movement, whereas the other one only had 4. So it has, and if you look at its terrain, it also has full access to aerial combat, which is always nice to have. It has that shield mechanism, as we can see right there. We take a look at its abilities: defense up, evasion up, and variable phase shift armor against physical weapons. Again, this is kind of nullified when you're up against units that have the damage, specific weapon damage nullification, but it's still good to have. It has really good damage mitigation option. And in terms of its skills, it only has up to range 3, unfortunately, for a defender unit, but let's see what it does. Attack down 30%, always nice to have. And then its other skill is going to be decrease physical weapon by 20%, the physical weapon power by 20%. I'm gonna have to say, let's check a look at its tags here. Lightning fast. Okay, so this one has lightning fast, and let's just double check the other one again, just so we make sure our information is correct. Okay, they both have lightning fast. Okay, so this one has more HP than the other, one has better mitigation than the other. Personally, I think the other one just slightly edges out. It could survive a little bit longer. Sure, it lacks a terrain capability. They both have lightning fast, but I prefer reducing an enemy's beam weapons over physical. But this one is no slouch either. And design-wise, I actually like this design a lot better compared to the other one. But I would say both of the new SSR defense units are solid. The other one being a little bit better, in my opinion, than this one, because I prefer lowering an enemy's beam weapon type damage versus their physical. But, you know, both are useful in specific situations. But that's going to be my opinion, guys, on these SSR units. Let's go ahead and quickly take a look at the pilots, because the pilots really have some interesting things that I'm looking forward to talking to you guys about. So we're going to first take a look at Lunamaria Hawke. So she is the supporter pilot, and her skills that she has access to are lock on, so 100% accuracy and energy charge. Could have been better in my opinion, but if they gave her like an offensive one, I would have preferred that. But in terms of her passives, so she has the support, attack, counter, standard. She has coordinator level 3, and then she also has an additional chance to counter attack or support attack when she's piloting Mobile Suit Gundam Seed Destiny. Now, if we take a look at the units that are available for this series, I mean, again, there's just so many Gundam Seed Destiny units and Gundam Seed in general. So you have no problem slotting this pilot and making good use of that additional support attack, because she just has so much of it. And she's definitely more made for our melee. It looks like she's melee and ranged, which is pretty interesting. But that double support is always nice to have. So very, very good pilot. Very flexible tag. So put her in any Mobile Suit Gundam Seed Destiny and you're good to go. You're taking advantage of everything that she offers. The next pilot, which is also from Seed, is a Defender pilot. So in terms of the skills, Force Guard and Attack Burst, pretty good. Very similar to Mika, except obviously because this is an SSR pilot, it's not going to be as good. Like, it's not going to be as potent as Mika's, but still, I like it. It's kind of like a mix of like offense and defense here. In terms of abilities, support, defense, spatial awareness. So awakened damage is going to be this pilot's specialty. And then afterwards, support defense +1 when piloting a Mobile Suit Gundam Seed Destiny. And again, lots of flexibility. So very, very good pilot overall, in my opinion. Good awakened damage. We're eating good when it comes to these SSR pilots on this banner, because we're getting 2 SSRs that can do double of, you know, other SSR units normally they can only do one of. And then finally, the attacker pilot, which is the lone pilot that is not from Gundam Seed Destiny, is the attacker pilot, Rezin. Fantastic range damage in terms of stats. No extra chance step, but does have high speed and sway, which is good. So, you know, an added movement, also having additional survivability with sway, which is always nice. However, remember, sway is useless against absolute hit, but still, having it is good. It's a good thing. And then in terms of passives, increased damage dealt, increase range damage, and when piloting Neo Zeon, pretty easy, pretty flexible tag. You are dealing 10% more damage to enemies and reduced damage by 10%. So all in all, very, very solid pilot, but I do think definitely that the 2 new seed pilots stand out the most. Having that additional support or additional support defense is always nice to have because it just gives them that much more usage. I do wish that the new supporter pilot did have better actual skills, but having that extra counterattack and support is always nice to have. So all in all, my evaluation on these SSRs, they're all great. I think if you pull them, they are fantastic options, especially for those of you that are more free to play or light spenders. You're not pulling on every banner and you manage to pull some of these SSRs. They are great options to use if you are lacking URs from specific tags or depending on the warships that you have access to. So I think they're great. I don't think they are must chase because remember, in these banners, you want the URs that are featured. So if you manage to pull these though, they are a great addition to your roster. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. This one was a bit of a longer video because there are 6 new SSRs, but I know you guys wanted to hear my thoughts on it. So here it is. And hopefully you guys found this information useful. Again, let me know what you guys think and let me know if you guys have been using them. Stay tuned for the next video and stay blessed, everybody.